Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner, operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and I want to welcome you to our program today. So I hope you've been with us because what we do on our program is me and a special guest sit down and we have a conversation about a particular movie, hoping that you will enjoy our conversation about that movie, or if you've never seen it before, go out there and search for this movie and watch it yourself. If you don't, we at least hope that you've enjoyed our conversation about that movie. That being said, one of the films that the film that we are actually going to be discussing today is a very, how can I say this? An interesting film, a product of its time, yet I think it deserves a little bit of time, a little bit of a conversation about that. And to join me on today's podcast, I want to bring in Philip Ray. He has been with us a very long time, and he's discussed a lot of unusual films with me. Thank you, Philip, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. And then the film we are discussing is the 1998? I think it's
1995.
1995 film Species, starring Natasha Henstridge, and among other major cast, because this movie has a huge cast of very, very famous actors. The film we're going to discuss right now. So, Philip, I have to ask, what was your first kind of, when were you indoctrinated into this film Species, and what was your general consistency of it?
So it's funny because Species, that was something I discovered on TV. It was a Sci-Fi Channel. So I didn't get a lot of the nudity of the movie because I saw the TV version of it. But I saw enough of it that I was strangely like, probably because I was a young guy and I was like, and like the general concept of the movie is you got this alien who's trying to have sex and stuff, a very attractive woman per se, and so a young me was like, oh, this is kind of cool, because of that. So that was my first introduction with it, is watching on TV and being like slightly, because I hadn't seen Alien at the time, so like this was like a suit again, like very pseudo alien type deal this movie is. So it was very interesting seeing this movie first and then seeing Aliens later and being like, oh yeah, this which makes sense because the alien design was done by H.R. Geiger, who again made the Alien movies. And if you know that and you watch this movie, you're like, yeah, I could tell he just did the same thing basically, but just replaced the gender.
Well, keep in mind with this film, he actually physically designed most everything himself, whereas with Alien, the original Alien, that is, because his designs were not used for Aliens, but for Alien, the writers, Ronald Shusalt and Dan O'Bannon and Ridley Scott all were inspired by his drawings and brought him in. Whereas with Species, there are direct, he designed all these directly for the film, which is actually interesting because there's a really good book about H.R. Geiger, who did all of his concepts for this film and everything like that. So, of course, when I saw this in '95 at the theater, and I knew who H.R. Geiger is. I've been following his career up until he passed away for like forever, since I was a kid. I was dying to see this movie, not only because it had aliens in it, but also because it had his design in it, and I loved the cast. I was very, very familiar with pretty much everyone except for Michelle Williams, which is, I think this is her first film, and Natasha Henstridge, who, this is one of her first films as well. So I knew who Ben Kingsley was, Michael Madsen, Marge Helgenberger, Alfred Molina, and Forrest Whitaker, most definitely. I knew all the cast for this film long before they became famous for this film here. But I will say I did love the film when I saw it originally as a kid. 95 was a long time ago. 95 was 30 years ago. So as a kid, I really loved this movie. I saw this movie a lot. And I did get to see all the nudity and stuff, and I saw this at the theater. And unlike you, I didn't get the truncated, neutered version of the film. Oh my God. I cannot say that I still am fond of this movie to this day. I will say that first. So
Yeah, it's definitely a product of its time. It is some of the concepts. I mean, the general idea is kind of interesting to a point about this. female alien that basically is trying to get pregnant and is constantly thwarted by the government. Originally, I do think that like it wears a little bit too much of its inspiration on its sleeve with again HR with Geiger's like designing of the aliens and stuff. Like it definitely it shows it a little bit too much on its shoulder at times, and definitely the special effects to definitely very 90s. They do not really hold up a lot of the time. I do think the original I do some of them think the original concepts in the movie probably would have been better than what we ended up getting because originally it was going to be more of a police procedural and stuff. Similar idea still of them trying to take down this female alien, but it was mostly going to be done through like with like the government, like kind of similar to what happened, but again, it was kind of going to be a police procedural approach, basically. And like the alien was not going to be like an alien that was created from some random code they found out in space. It was just going to be done by a bathtub genetics person.
Well, so I want to touch upon a couple of things that you mentioned there. First of all, you know that the CGI in this film is very 90s. It is a shame that with the great designs from Geiger, they didn't do these practically like they did in the original Alien and Aliens films. They decided to do CGI. I think had they done them practically, they would not look so damn dated. 30 years on, they look really dated. They almost look, I don't want to say bad, but they almost, certain scenes at the very end, the close
Oh
ups
yeah,
on the
no,
Silk character look pretty bad now.
the finale is bad, and then
Yeah, they look
again,
really bad.
there at the end, again, you get a lot of things that bear too much resemblance of Alien a lot. It is funny because like they had to change things because it was originally going to be even more like in the like Alien stuff, and it's funny because later some of the some things that were in this movie that ended up getting cut ended up getting used in Aliens, like the Syl, the female alien was going to kill someone by having like a forked tongue that would go down like into one of its victims and like rack it from the inside. That ended up getting cut, and then that idea was kind of pseudo brought into Aliens for when the alien does its little like kiss of death for one of its victims and stuff. That was actually that was a transfer over from this movie.
Hmm.
There was a couple other things like that too, where like that ended up not sticking in this script, but that ended up getting put over in the Alien script in the end. But like
Which
originally,
alien?
Syl was going to die by fire. Like she ends up getting headshot, but originally she was going to instead of the baby getting killed with the flamethrower, it was going to be Syl. And Larry Geiger was like, "That's just the ending of Alien. No, don't do that." So then they changed it to
Oh,
it getting killed by a headshot.
hmm.
But yeah, no, it was. I mean, it was very obvious that like they were just going. I think it was very obvious the originals. They were kind of over a line on the fact that they had Geiger. That they were like, oh well, let's just make another Aliens.
Well, I'll see that. I will agree with some of that because that essentially most of what we see from the Geiger's designs are all in the dream sequences, anyways. Which, in effect, you have to think about whether or not they're really effective or not. Because at one point, you think that she's in her dream, she's seeing stuff from her or her culture or the aliens past or whatever, because she doesn't know her purpose there on Earth or what she's there for at first. And she still doesn't. All she knows is instinct tells her to procreate, but she doesn't know why she's doing all this stuff. There are some interesting concepts in the film, but it becomes a chase movie too often, and characters don't seem to have a purpose. I mean, Marge Helgenberger's character, for all intents and purposes, has one scene that she's actually useful for, and that's when they try and grow the original alien without human DNA in it. That's about it.
Yeah.
Arden, who Mark Alfred Molina's character, has no purpose in this movie whatsoever. He does nothing. And
Well, he has one purpose of the movie
to
in
get
the end.
Forrest Whitaker drunk
Yeah.
off of Long Island iced tea. Uh, I think that that's the other thing. The so some of the problems I have with this film is how it aged horribly, in my opinion, is the fact that it's okay to have the Syl character who's out there trying to procreate with any male that seems to be able to doesn't have some type of disease. But in the third act, they make her become enamored with the press character, Michael Madsen's character. And so she sets up this elaborate ruse to trick them only so she can have sex with him later on. And that seems really far stretch. And when that doesn't work, she has sex with Alfred Molina's Arden's character. And that just seems really far fetched for someone who, in her last two conquests, just literally she took anybody home with him, and then that was it. But for
It's one of those things of like it was a two-way thing. Actually, in the original script, there was a love triangle between Syl and two of the government team members and stuff, which they kind of cut, but also kind of not in some way. What they ended up doing is they kind of had that to a point, unintentionally with Press and Arden and stuff. But yeah, I mean, what happened is at the end of the day, it's one of those situations where they kind of wrote themselves in the corner because it's like in theory it should be pretty over pretty easily of like still should easily find someone to procreate very easily regardless. They had to throw again little small things of like to try to like stall and stuff, and then in the end, then that's why I think they introduced the whole obsession with Press, just so again because if not, I'm like she would have won.
yeah, I know that's the problem I have with this one. They rectify that in Species 2 when the main alien just has sex with a lot of different women. And he ends up having a lot of different babies from the many different women. In this film, it just seems like and this film it just seems very contrived. I know they want to try and bring all the storylines together and all, but when you have this team of scientists who at the very beginning their purpose is not to study Syl at all, not to capture her, it's to simply kill her. It begs the question, why the hell do they have all these other people with them? And
Yeah.
like, don't you just need Press? Maybe Forrest Whitaker's character, maybe, but the rest of them you don't need. You're not trying to learn anything from Syl. You're just trying to capture her. You would expect to just call Press and say, Press, what do you need? Who do you need? And that would be it. And when you're young, and when I was young in '95, I didn't think any of it. I really didn't really think about the plot at all or the logic behind the plot. But when I rewatched it, I was like, this movie has so many fuck ups in terms of the writing that it was glaring at me. I couldn't stop thinking about them. I couldn't enjoy the movie anymore like I did when I was a kid. I didn't find Natasha Henstridge performance all that engaging, or it was raw. It was because she's so new. You see her
Yeah,
now,
it
and
was her film debut.
yeah, you see her now in film. She's not nearly as raw, but I saw her in her performance in this like I did Mark Wahlberg's film in that shitty movie that he did, his first movie. I can't think of his movie. Fear. God, I hate that movie. Everyone out there, I hate that movie. Mark Wahlberg ruined that entire movie because he's so bad in it. So bad. And I think that was his first movie or one of his first movies. And I'm like, dude is so bad in this fucking movie. But that movie made a lot of money, just like this movie made a lot of money. And there are sequels to this one, the whole franchise for the Species ones. Uh, but it aged horribly. Now, there are some good things about it, Philip.
Yep.
Can you tell us some good things?
I mean, I will say, even though it is very, again, very deprived of Alien, I will say the Alien design is cool. It
Yeah,
is definitely a cool design. Um, yeah. And again, like the concept is interesting and stuff.
So
It's very much like the way I saw it, it's pretty much how the movie is. It is a very much a sci-fi movie type
it
movie.
is. It's a movie that would not get a theatrical release in this day and age. It is a
No.
movie that would definitely play well on the Sci-Fi Channel. In this day and age, it would definitely play well on the Sci-Fi Channel. Definitely play well on the Sci-Fi Channel, which I believe the third and fourth sequels were Sci-Fi Channel movies because they were straight to DVD movies, but I think they were on Sci-Fi first, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, yes, it
Okay.
was.
Okay. So eventually they got into the bandwagon and realized they could make a franchise out of this. Um,
Well, it's also because the first movie made a profit, the second movie bombed. It
yeah.
bombed horribly.
Yeah, yeah. I remember because I was there at the theater when it came out, when both of them came out. So I remember that. I for the thing is, I love the design for the Syl character in this one. And Patrick is the monster in the second movie. I have to think about that. It's been years since I've seen the second movie. But the Patrick monster, I actually like the design for. I like the design for these films, and I do not know if H.R. Giger contributed to the design of the monster in the second movie. Now that I think about it, if he did, there is no like book or anything like he does. He used to do lots of books and notes and shit on everything he worked on. Like the Poltergeist 2, he did work on. I know stuff that he's worked on other than that. I don't know about the monster in that, but the monster looks really cool in the stills and the artwork that Giger produced for this film. So because it was done in CGI from the 90s, it just doesn't hold up nearly as well. I would have loved to have seen it practical. I think it would be a much better appreciated movie if it had been practical as opposed to the CGI.
I agree. I think that would have helped a little bit with the movie. Also, Geiger did dig the designs for the second movie
Okay,
too.
okay. Yeah, there's different designs. I like the Patrick monster in the second one, so uh
Yeah.
there's and we get to see the Seal monster much better in the second movie than in this film. So that's another great thing. I actually like that. There's some interesting things that they do with the Seal, and I like the concept of this movie. I've always liked the concept. We all know that we sent a message out in space hoping someone would answer back, and then when they answer back, they send us a solution for clean energy that burns without waste, and then of course they send us a DNA sample. And I like the concept that they just touch upon in this movie that the aliens may have sent this here as a means to eradicate humanity from our planet and fill it with their own species or a hybrid of their species. I like the concept, but it's not really explored. It's one of many different ideals that's presented throughout the film, but not really explored, really, because we never. Seal doesn't even know why she's there. Like she just has to procreate. She doesn't have a purpose in this movie. She just has to procreate. It's instinct. It's her basic instinct. That's all she knows. If we knew more about why she was here, some of those concepts that they just hint upon would feel like they actually went somewhere, like they had a purpose.
Yeah. What's funny too is this movie, I'm not sure if you rewatching it again, I'm not sure if you got this connection, but now there's another movie that came out that is very similar to this. It's a movie called Splice.
Yes, I was gonna mention Splice, but Splice is so much better. Splice is
Yeah.
a fucking brilliant movie compared to this film. Um, I absolutely love Splice. Was it Vincenzo Natali's film? I'm
Yeah.
probably butchering his fucking name. Who did Cube? I love that movie. I thought the performances were excellent, the concepts were cool, and the way that the movie ended was so fucked up. Have you seen it? Have you
Mhm.
seen Splice?
I have seen Splice.
I love Splice. I saw it at the theater too, so I was a Vincenzo. I never know if I'm saying this fucking name right. Vincenzo Natalie. I'm probably saying it wrong because it sounds like I'm saying it wrong. But but I've always loved that film. I don't think that film gets enough talk about and enough credit for how good it is because it's so science based, and I think that's what's lost in Species. There's some ideals of it starting off being science based, but then it becomes okay. Let's show Natasha Henstridge naked and having sex with somebody, and that's
Yeah.
what the movie de-evolves into. And in the 90s, I can guarantee you that was perfectly fine because I was a young chap in the 90s, and I strung to Natasha Henstridge and watched a lot of movies that she was in because of Species. That's not to say that I followed her just because she's really attractive. I think that she became a much better actress as her career came on, which is what's supposed to happen. It's supposed to happen. Mark Wahlberg from Fear sucked, but he's become a much better actor. It happens. We've all seen it before. Most actors out there start off with a really shitty horror movie and then they go on to do bigger and better things. I know Leonardo DiCaprio is not telling people he was in Critters 3, but he was in Critters 3. You know? And look where he is now. It's just something that happens, but at least she got to be a H.R. Geiger creation, which is very few and far in between.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to think. We're hoping that you actually have seen this film, everyone out there listening to us, because we have gone through none of the plot other than the fact that, Sill's an alien created by a lab that then gets chased by a bunch of scientists throughout Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's again, you covered it. It's a chase movie about them it's a chase movie about trying to cock block a female alien.
So, it reminds me so much of the movie The Hidden, from I think it's the 80s. I think it's the 80s movie from The Hidden. I don't know if you've seen that one, but we talked about it
I
on the
have
show
not.
already. It essentially has an alien who like skips bodies, and he's being chased by a cop and another alien from his own race. And all he wants is to drive fast cars and have sex as well. And it's a fun movie, but because you never lose focus on what the movie is really about. I think this film, unfortunately, loses focus because it becomes about. I mean, even the art. This movie has the themes of sex in it. Like that's what it de-evolves into. Arden wants to get with Laura, like Marge Helgenberger's character. I think that's her name, Laura. Laura, I think it's Laura. And of course he gets blocked by the press, who seems to not have any interest in women whatsoever until he meets her. And then of course he then becomes the victim of Sill, who finally, copulates with him. He's like, "Oh my God, it's the greatest sex ever," and she's saying, I'm having a baby." Oh, it doesn't work that fast, and of course he figures out that she's the alien and gets his, dies. So he gets ecstasy and then dies. It's one of those. It's an odd film. It is a odd film, especially in this day and age. I think in the 90s it played well. I think young audience members liked this shit, which is why it was so popular.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
And I think again, if I think would have helped again is if they actually used practical
Yeah.
with the Sill design. I think would have helped a lot. But because they just use CGI, it gives that sci-fi movie feel.
Yeah, I didn't think about that till we just talked about it. I think it definitely feels like a sci-fi movie. But I will say the thing that makes it not so much a sci-fi movie is the amazing cast it has in it. For my money, I like Michael Madsen in this film, but I love Forrest Whitaker in this film. I think Forrest Whitaker is the only actor in this film who is like actually knows his character and knows what he's doing in this movie. I want to love Ben Kingsley, but he seems lost in this movie. He
He
seems like
does.
he's just sprouting lines and has no idea what he's saying, or how he's saying it, and that's really odd for me to say about this guy because I love Ben Kingsley in almost everything he's in. I just think he's just a weird choice, odd choice for him. But that being said, he's done other weird choice movies as well. Um, but I don't know about you, what you think about some of the performances in here.
I
I
think I mean the performances are fine. I agree with what you said with Ben Kingsley and stuff. And earlier you're talking about with Sill's actress. I mean she was fine. Again, I think it's not this movie's not very deep, and so no one really like again Forrest Whitaker is fine, and Mads Mikkelsen is not Mads Mikkelsen. Michael
Michael
Madsen.
Madsen.
Michael Madsen. Like he was fine in his role. Like again, it's nothing. No, the characters aren't really that deep at the end of the day.
Well, that's because I would say Forrest Whitaker's character comes to the most, but they don't give him much to do towards the end either. The ending, which becomes this weird little, I mean, it does de-evolve really quickly into a chase movie where the skills of none of the characters are actually utilized in the ending.
No, and
Uh,
especially at the end too, like with like Forrest Whitaker's character being dumb of like seeing the offspring and was like, oh hey, what's going on? It's like you are aware that this thing is still around. Why are you not freaked out immediately like, oh, there's a child, this naked child in this cave? Probably not, probably some type of alien.
Yeah, and that was probably the one creature effect I did not like the look of was the offspring when it's fully like the monster, the creature.
Oh yeah, I mean they definitely cheaped out on the budget for that effect. It does not, again, it really does not look good.
Yeah, no, like dude, you did such a great job on the seal alien, and then this creature looked like you gave it to the third string person in the shop to create, and he came up with this. It was really disappointing to see that. And
It's where the
thankfully,
budget got cut.
huh?
That's where the budget got cut.
Yeah, but well, thankfully he's not on the screen that long. He gets killed pretty fucking fast. But it just when you had that moment when he's fully the creature and he springs out on Forrest Whitaker, you're like hoping for this really cool male version of Syl, and that's not what you get at all. And it's not a little, it's a lot disappointing. It's a lot disappointing. And I felt that when I first watched the film. When I first saw the film in '95, I was like, oh, they did a great job in Seal, but what the fuck happened to him? I was like, huh, this sucks. This isn't good at all, you know. But then we have the fiery pit of oil, which is so fucking odd. There's an earthquake that opens up this building, this hotel, and there's a huge oil reserve inside the crevice. I'm like, did someone not ever bother to notice this big hole in the wall first of all and explore it and look that there's fucking oil in there? That just I don't know about you, but that seemed really fucking far fetched to me. I was like, okay, this is just fucking weird. Okay, but I'll have to
Yeah.
roll. See, in 1990, 95, I didn't care. I was a little kid. But rewatching it 30 years later, I'm like, oh my God, this movie did not age at all well. And that's a shame.
No,
It's a shame.
no, it did not.
I believe that this would be a good film that needs a god dang reboot, remake. I won't say reboot. It needs a remake. Not a reboot, not a requel, not a legacy sequel, a fucking remake. To get the shit right. I will say that.
Yeah, I mean, if they do that, I mean, they definitely need to change the. I would maybe do maybe some of the original concepts of the movie. I definitely would. You would need a lot of script punching to fix it.
That being said, it would be interesting. It would be interesting. And we don't talk about a lot of these type of movies when I mean, we don't really talk about how a remake or reboot or legacy sequel would come about in this day and age. So it's interesting to bring that up for this type of movie, which in and of itself is probably considered more sci-fi than horror for a lot of people. But it's always good to talk about these films that have these sci-fi elements to it. And we love to talk about monster movies in the show, everybody. If you're listening, we love to talk about monster movies. And this definitely has a monster in it, and it definitely is created by H.R. Geiger, who did the amazing monster for the Alien film. I will not mention the other ones because he did not work on those directly. So the Alien one. So, any other thing you would like to add for this film, Species, Philip?
Not really. Again, it's a definitely a sci-fi kind of movie. You watch on the Sci-Fi Channel. Other than that, like there's not a whole lot of reason to go see it. Again, if you want to see a movie with a slightly similar concept, did a little better, go see Splice.
Oh god, that just means we have to make sure we touch upon Splice next year on the podcast.
Yeah.
Which we will definitely do. That is actually on our list to do because I absolutely love Splice. And I think the only film of Vincenzo Natali's that we've done so far is Cube, and we will do more of his films as I'm able to, actually. But yeah, you're right. I think unfortunately for this film, it is a product of its time. It's always interesting to go back and reevaluate some of these films that we think or thought were really good when we were growing up, but just don't really hold it together in years' time. This one unfortunately has had 30 years and its franchise came and went and no one ever talks about it. But that's not new. There's tons of franchises like that that have one or two sequels and they just aren't talked about. They're not spoken about. And they're not, they're not like the next Scream franchise that's going to have a legacy sequel. I don't think anyone's thinking about a sequel to this movie. I think this is a dead IP unless someone decides they want to remake it. And if they do, go by what Philip says. Make it the way it was originally intended and not with all the studio interference, or just come up with something new. So, with that, I want to thank you, Philip, for joining us on this conversation in horror. Everyone who's listening, what we love to do at the end of our program is we like to rate the movie between 1 and 5 stars, 1 being poor, not 4, 1 being poor, 5 being amazing. Where on the spectrum do you place the movie Species from 1995?
Species, I would probably give it a 2.5.
2.5. Okay, interesting. If I was talking about this film in my 1995 young boy days, I would have given this probably a 3.5 or 4. But now in my 30 years hence, I'm going to give it like a 1.5 is all I'm giving the movie. I could not get past a lot of the faults in this movie when I rewatched it. I think even though I do not like her performance in the movie, I still love Natasha Henstridge for the other films I've seen her in. And I actually don't mind. I give a little leeway for people in their performances in one of their earliest films. I do think that Michelle Williams, by the way, did a fantastic job as the young Syl. This is before she became known as what she is now. But other than that, I think it's a highly forgettable film. Other than, if you're an H.R. Giger fan, you want to look at some of his early designs from before he passed away when he was still working in the film industry. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed our conversation in horror today as we spoke about the movie Species. I will not tell you whether or not we will ever get around to the sequels, but at least you have this episode to enjoy along with the movie that we hope. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, I hope you will check out previous episodes in our show. Also, make sure to check out our check out our other podcast, Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors, which is released every first and third Friday of the month. And also check out our sister podcast, Conversations in 4Color, which delves into comic books, manga, and graphic novels. That is on our Patreon supported page, so you do have to be a subscriber or follower to listen to that podcast. But if you do follow or subscribe, you'll be glad that you did. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, please have a great day and stop making those aliens in your basement. It just doesn't lead to anything good. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production. Written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers. Executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.